Hello, and thank you for tuning in for another episode of Parenting Pickup. I'm Kara Johnson-Bader, your host. Today, we're joined by Amanda Mason. She is New Horizon Academy's own child mental health specialist. Amanda has a background in early childhood education, a master's degree in social and emotional learning at Erickson Institute, and has a graduate certificate in U.S. Davis Infant Parent Mental Health Program. She's also a former toddler teacher and a current parent to a 14-month-old. So we are especially lucky to have some time with her today because she has a lot going on. Welcome, Amanda.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. We're really happy to have you back again. And for the audience, last time we had Amanda on, she talked about children hitting and the first time regarding the introduction of new siblings in the household. And the links to those episodes will be included in the show notes. There's so much to talk about with you in regard to children's mental health. And today we're delving into the idea of bibliotherapy and how it can be a good tool to support healthy development.
Yes, I'm super excited.
Amanda, from the point of view of a parent, the idea of the term bibliotherapy can sound a bit complicated and intellectual. So I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what it is and how you would introduce parents to this idea.
So yeah, a straightforward and easy way to remember a definition for bibliotherapy is just using books to help people solve problems. If you think about it, adults already do this, and many do it quite often. So think about reading any kind of like an advice book or an article, a self-help book, a parenting book or a blog, a book about improving your health, and so on. Adults already use bibliotherapy, and they maybe don't even realize it. It's already a part of your daily life.
That's really easy and straightforward. It's not as difficult as I kind of imagined it to be when I hear the word bibliotherapy. It sounds much more involved and harder, but we're already doing it.
Yep.
So that's great. What are some of the key benefits of using bibliotherapy with young children, kind of particularly in terms of mental health?
So there's so many benefits to think about when you're thinking about bibliotherapy. For young children, bibliotherapy means just using books to help them solve problems in their small world. Remember, children don't have a lot of life experiences yet, and bibliotherapy can help children learn about life, cope with challenging experiences, and it also helps children feel connected. It can help teach children that they're not alone and that problems or challenges they're experiencing have solutions. The act of being read to in and of itself can also be regulating and soothing. So I think most caregivers can agree that those are some pretty significant benefits. Bibliotherapy can also expose children to diverse characters and life experiences. It can encourage social and emotional skill development. And when we're thinking about how do we incorporate it into a daily routine, a few things come to mind. So first, bibliotherapy is in and of itself a therapeutic technique. So it can be used in a therapeutic setting with a trained mental health professional, but it can also be used by any caregiver. So any caregiver who's invested in caring for and supporting young children, bibliotherapy can be for you. If there's one thing I want the listeners to take away from this is that anyone can use bibliotherapy to benefit a child. You don't need any special skills or training.
Sure.
The main ingredients are books, you, and your child. Of those ingredients, I would say the most important one is you. It's not the books, it's you. Your relationship with your child takes center stage here. Making yourself available to your child, being present with them for the duration of the story, allowing your child to sit next to you or with you, allowing them to wiggle or cuddle as you read, and allowing them to engage with you in the book on their terms is so important. Aside from your relationship with your child, the groundwork for bibliotherapy is really about making a habit of reading with your child. Expose them to books, make them available on their level so they can grab them, hold them, bring them to you, choose favorites, and show you what they're interested in. Think about when it might make the most sense for you in your routine. Maybe you've got an early riser, so maybe mornings make most sense to you. Or maybe it's bedtime. You might feel more natural to help you and your kiddo wind down. You get to choose what's worked best for you and your child. And keep in mind, it should work for you too. It's okay to read less books one night or skip it entirely or shorten a story.
That's great. I really like hearing it's you, books, and your child.
Yeah.
What a nice way to kind of pull that all together and help us see that it's kind of what we're already doing by being maybe more intentional with it.
Yeah, so it's taking something you're already doing with a little bit more intentionality and a little bit more mindfulness, maybe even with a specific topic in mind or a specific talking point in mind with your child.
That's great. It seems really easy to do. And so, how can parents select appropriate books for bibliotherapy? Are there specific themes or types of books or stories to look for?
Yeah, so selecting books might seem daunting or time consuming, and it really doesn't have to be. So start with the books that you already have access to. Thinking like a book that's used for bibliotherapy, it doesn't even have to be about a specific topic. Like I said earlier, the simple act of reading for a child can be regulating. It can be a simple book that's familiar to them, a book that your child really likes, anything that you've already got in your house or that they already have access to. And remember that reading familiar books and hearing familiar stories often has its own benefits. It builds consistency and predictability within a child's world, which supports overall healthy development. And also keep in mind that oral storytelling holds as much value and significance as reading words from a page. You can retell stories from your own childhood or even make up new stories with your child. If you're looking for a book on a specific topic, I recommend using the expertise of your local librarian. I've been so impressed with librarians' ability to help me find children's books on a variety of topics. So, an internet search with a few keywords is also a good place to start. You can include maybe your child's age and the topic. For example, a book about becoming a sibling for toddlers. Or maybe the topic search is books for young children about cancer. And remember, bibliotherapy can be for like a specific topic, or it could even be more general to just offer comfort and that familiarity. Or it can be to help children just learn about everyday life. So, some general tips to keep in mind when selecting books are considering your child's age and their development. You can look at the length of the book, the number of words on a page, the types of words used. You can also consider the flow or the rhythm of the story. Look for something that has rhyming or flow to it, and that can be more engaging for young children. Evaluate the images too. Think about, the books and the characters that they have in the pages. Are they familiar to your child, or can your child relate to them? Those things can also be helpful.
It's nice to know that there aren't required books that you have to use for this.
Absolutely not.
You can use books that you already have. And I really like the suggestion of talking to a librarian. They are such a wealth of knowledge.
Absolutely. True gems in the community, yes.
Great. Now that we've talked about kind of that, tell me, how would parents tell if their child might benefit from bibliotherapy? Like, what signs should they look for? And when should parents start using bibliotherapy?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things that I would keep in mind for that. So if you know that something is on the horizon that either might be hard for you or hard for your child to handle, something that might be hard to make sense of, consider bibliotherapy. Maybe you're going to be moving, maybe a new sibling is on the way, or maybe you know that somebody has a recent medical diagnosis you're going to need to talk to your child about. Those would all be reasons to start looking into a book about those specific topics and getting ready to try bibliotherapy in your house. And remember, it can also be used in the moment to respond to something that your child maybe experiences or sees in the community or on the news. Children are observant. They take their cues from us. So, for example, reading a book about severe weather after an unexpected severe weather episode can help children make sense of it and gain coping skills for next time. So maybe the storm itself was loud and now they see trees down in the street. Saying something like, "Oh, the wind was sure strong and made the tree fall over." It's a helpful start, but taking it a step further and taking the time to sit down, connect with your child, read a story together, answer questions, talk through what they're thinking about, that's how we build resilience in kiddos.
Sure.
Another sign that bibliotherapy could be useful for your child is if you, the adult, if you're having trouble broaching a subject with your child. Say, for example, you have a family pet that's aging and you want to talk to your child and prepare them for the pet's end of life. Often we've got our own stuff, right? Like we have our own feelings, we have our own emotions, our own adult baggage, and our own preconceived notions. Maybe we're sad too. We might be not sure how deep to go or how much to talk about it. We also might not feel prepared to handle questions that might come up. So talking to children about these really big topics is not the same thing as talking to another adult, and bibliotherapy can help us as adults talk to children about the heavy, hard topics in ways that are developmentally appropriate and digestible. In terms of when to start, lay the groundwork now. Build reading and storytelling into your routine, and then start bibliotherapy if you know something's on the horizon, or start as soon as you need to after an unexpected event.
Those are really great tips. Can you share kind of any success stories or examples of how bibliotherapy has positively kind of impacted young children?
Yeah, so I can talk from personal experience with this. Like we said at the beginning, I've got a 14-month-old daughter. And so we've already kind of done some of this groundwork, right? Like I like to read stories with her. I know some of her favorites. We try to build this into the daily routine. And so on a normal day, that's great. Some days it doesn't happen right. Nobody's perfect. And working with little kids and having little kids at home is very busy. But we try to do this groundwork of, having books available and just knowing what she likes. We've got it part of our bedtime routine. So recently she had a bout of croup and she got a new tooth at the same exact time. So she was very uncomfortable.
Absolutely. You were too.
Yes.
There's not a lot of sleep
happening. The whole household was uncomfortable. So within those sort of, the weekend hours, I think we had spent, I had read this one book to her that she really likes called Baby Beluga. It's got the lyrics to Baby Beluga, and I read it to her probably 30 times over a weekend.
Oh.
And that seemed to be something that genuinely provided some comfort to her because it was familiar. I could read the book to her, I could sing the lyrics to her, and we could have these moments of connection. She could either sit with me or lay in my lap or sit next to me. So in these moments where she was so uncomfortable, it was something that gave her a lot of comfort. So kind of getting back to that earlier definition of bibliotherapy, with just helping people solve a problem with books, there isn't a book that cures tooth pain. Baby Beluga doesn't cure the cough or didn't stop her mouth from hurting. What she needed was the comfort and the soothing. And the familiar book offered that to her. And as a parent, it gave me a way to offer her something that was tangible and predictable to give her that comfort and soothing that she was needing.
What a great idea.
Adults do this too, right? Like if you ever reread a favorite book, or sometimes you might rewatch a favorite story, or a TV show, or come across a book from your childhood and you feel that sort of comforting nostalgia, that's bibliotherapy.
Oh, that's great. That's such a nice way to frame it, and nice to see that you could help your daughter feel better. Because you're right, you can't take away a toothache.
Nope.
And you can't really take away croup right away. You have to just kind of work through that. But
just got to work through it.
But the familiar story, that's nice. That was comforting. So let me ask, what kind of final thoughts or advice would you like to share with parents about bibliotherapy to kind of support their child's emotional development?
I would say just to keep in mind and remember that the most important part is you. So reading together is more meaningful if there's an element of connection, of mutuality, if you're kind of getting some enjoyment out of it too. This helps you get to know your child better and just understand how they see the world and how they're processing and handling the things that they're going through, the things that they're experiencing. And also remember, it should work for you too. So there was that recent warning that came out from the Surgeon General about the stress that parents are currently experiencing. So I don't want any parents or caregivers to listen to this and feel worried that there is another thing on their plate or another thing to do. Take what's useful and make it work for you and your child.
Oh, I love that, because I think as parents, we're all kind of stressed.
Absolutely. There's already too much on our plates, and this is just, again, take what's useful about reading books with your kiddos, having connected moments with your kiddos, and make it work within your family.
That's wonderful. Okay, this is the point of the podcast where we'll take a little break to hear a word from our sponsor.
What did you do at New Horizon Academy today, Miles?
Mom, letter of the week is S. We added the word sun to our word wall. We read a book about the weather, built a solar oven on the playground. We practiced star breathing, and then I learned how to make an S in sign language. It was so fun!
Sounds like you had a great day.
New Horizon Academy offers premium early childhood development for all families. We serve best-in-class social-emotional education for kiddos from infancy to school age. Check us out at newhorizonacademy.net.
Welcome back. Now we're going to chat with Amanda about some questions that came in from parents. And the first one is from Jasmine. And Jasmine says, my 4-year-old son's grandmother, who cares for him multiple times a week, was diagnosed with breast cancer recently. And how can reading play a role in explaining this family situation to my son? Oh, my heart goes out to that family.
Absolutely. And so first I want to say thanks for asking this question, Jasmine, and I am so sorry that you're going through this. That's a lot to have happen in your family. So I want you to know that you will probably have multiple and even ongoing conversations with your son. This is normal and it's developmentally appropriate. You might ask questions at times that seem odd or times that surprise you, and just know that that's normal. If you're the one that's initiating this conversation, or if you're introducing a book about breast cancer, you want to try to pick a time when you as the parent can feel relaxed and regulated as much as you can during such an emotionally challenging time. And also, don't be surprised if when you're reading a book, if your son's attention wavers. Sometimes it shows us that children's own self-protective instincts to tune out are coming online, and that's important. And it also can show us that he might simply have other things on his mind. Allow the conversation to ebb and flow, stop and start the book as much as you need, and also pay attention to what he might need for comfort. Does he need a cuddle? Does he need to sit on your lap or hold a blankie?
Aww.
Keep using the simple and concrete terms from the books that you're reading in your everyday life. So as you continue to kind of try to make sense of the diagnosis and the treatment process, for example, you might say that grandma, or maybe whatever your child knows her as, grandma's sick with an illness called cancer. This cancer happened on its own. Nobody did anything to make it happen. Her doctors are doing the best they can to take care of her, and grandma's going to do everything she can do to get better. And remember to take your time.
Yeah.
Take time to take care of yourself. Don't be afraid to show emotions in front of your child, even as you're reading books together, and help him understand why other adults, like maybe aunts or uncles, maybe they're emotional too. You can say something like, I'm feeling worried and I'm feeling sad. One of the ways that our bodies handle these feelings is by crying. It's normal to cry, and it's good for your body to cry when you need to.
What helpful advice. Our second question comes from Carson. And Carson says, we've recently moved and our child also started a new school. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of change at once.
That's a lot, yeah.
With that in mind, we've started reading books about moving and starting at a new school. But it seems like she's still having issues as we've been getting checkups from her teachers that she hasn't been taking to the change of the environment very well. How do we know if it's time to look for professional help? Oh, what a good question.
Yeah, thanks for asking this question, Carson. And I can hear in your voice and from this question, I can hear the concern for your child. So before I answer the question, I just want to say, kudos to you as a parent for being in tune with your child and simply noticing that they're having a hard time. And you're also taking into consideration what your child's new teachers are saying. You want to do something about it, good for you. Moving comes with a whole mix of emotions, and so does starting a new school. Bibliotherapy outside of a mental health practice is a great way to go wide on a variety of topics, but it does not do the deep work of therapy.
Oh,
It
sure.
sounds like your child is maybe needing to go deep. I recommend talking with your child's teachers, get some specifics about what they're seeing your child struggle with, and then make an appointment to talk with your child's pediatrician and ask for a referral for a child psychologist or some other early childhood mental health provider. And always remember that you are the expert on your child. You know him best, so trust your judgment when you think it might be time for more support.
Great. Our final question comes from Misha. And Misha says, both my partner and I love to read and love the ways it's opened our eyes to processing the rest of the world. But we struggle to include our children in this journey. Are there any resources that you would suggest for parents looking to start bibliotherapy with their children?
I love your enthusiasm, Misha. So in the show notes, I'll put a link to a few articles where you'll be able to look into if you want some more information, maybe about some titles to look into, or a few more recommendations. Again, I'm going to plug for your local librarian. Use their brain, borrow their expertise to gather titles and find books about specific topics. Your local bookstores can also be a great resource. You can do an internet search. However, I will say beware of sinking down into a rabbit hole to try to find the perfect book. It doesn't exist. Just remember that you are the most important ingredient. And also remember that you can do bibliotherapy with just about any book.
That's great. I hadn't thought about that before, and it's really exciting to think about that you can do bibliotherapy with any book, because on our next episode, we have an author's roundtable.
Love that. So yeah, I'm sure any of the books that they bring to the roundtable, think about how maybe in any of those books you could just talk about what are the characters' facial expressions, what are they wondering about, what are they experiencing, what are they thinking. I mean, that's how you use any book in a bibliotherapy way.
Wonderful. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us on the Parenting Pickup podcast as our special guest. I think this information is critical for all families to know. And with all these helpful resources, if families can even utilize some of these methods, I think they and their children will gain so much. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a topic I am passionate about, so I love talking about it, and I am happy to share with parents.
Wonderful. Thanks again. Listeners, if you would like more information on this episode or need access to the other resources mentioned, head to our website at newhorizonacademy.net. And if you have any questions, please email us at parentingpickup@nhacademy.net. Thanks and have a great day.